Hi everyone, welcome to today's service. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person, but I hope that the service today will help you on your day-to-day journey through the world, as it is today in somewhat strange circumstances. The subject is Surely the Lord is in this place, and I hope that you will start with a song. So again, I will mention the subject, which is Surely the Lord is in this place. And let us open the word. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. And I usually start with the Lord's Prayer. The important thing here is this is something we've probably said many times in our lives, but I hope that it will continue to be an inspiration for you as you think of the meaning of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive those debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. So what are we using today for context? It's basically focusing on how to become connected to the Lord in our lives, as illustrated by Jacob's dream of a ladder or stairway to heaven, contrasted with the way some people tried to make a ladder to heaven. Very different. So somebody will be reading this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of the background. Prior to this, Isaac had sent Jacob away to find a wife, but not a Canaanite woman. And he obeyed his parents' dictate. His history with Esau is still not a good one. And the reading is Genesis 28, verses 10 to 17. And this is an amazing story. Now you've heard the story, you will recognize the most profound speech in a way that Jacob uttered. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. What an amazing thing for him to find. He hasn't been the greatest human being on the planet, which none of us are, but he has shown the way that we can all become angels. So the Lord has promised Jacob not only that his family will get bigger and bigger, but also that the Lord would always be with him, looking after him. So what did Jacob do after this dream? And we'll be hearing further from Genesis 28, verses 18 through 22. A little bit of background. Bethel means house of God. After this is the story of meeting Laban and Rachel. Rachel, of course, would be the love of his life. And all that trauma that went into this finally marrying Rachel. Getting Leah first and being tricked into having Leah first. So the ultimate dream was wonderful. But the start of his journey was messy, which is somewhat like happens to us on our journey. It's never straightforward, is it? So what I'm going to do now is give you a little bit of the message, and then we'll continue with some more readings from Genesis and the explanation from the writings of Swedenborg. This message is basically what other students have come into when trying to interpret Jacob's ladder. Sorry, I'm trying to read and think at the same time. It doesn't work. Most scholars interpret Jacob's ladder as a connection between heaven and earth, with God taking the initiative to reach out to us. The perfect ladder is Jesus Christ, who was God come to earth to save humanity. Jesus refers to himself as this ladder in John 1, verse 51. And he, Jesus, said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." But in the New International Version translation of the Bible, the term stairway is used instead of ladder. And you'll hear later on the different interpretations of that. So the message for us here is the orderly way for us to approach the Lord. And that way we can actually become angels. Now, further on in this reference, it mentions the disorder of the Tower of Babel, or Babel, however you pronounce it. Here's a reminder of how that story goes. And this is Genesis 11, verses 1 through 9. What makes this story so different to the previous one is that the people try to reach heaven on their own without the divine. They don't seem to be interested in loving the Lord or the neighbor, just getting ahead. But that's time for another sermon later on. So what do the writings or the works of Swedenborg say about Jacob's ladder? Well, there's quite a large number of passages that speak about this story in Heavenly Secret. And what I've tried to do is to capture the meaning of this story in our lives. The important message is that Jacob's dream shows us how our journey to the Lord takes place. Just on the literal level, the angels are seen ascending and descending. I'm going to ask you the question, is it harder to ascend or descend? Do we see more from the top of the ladder or from the bottom? We're going to actually start with Divine Love and Wisdom 66. There are 3 ascending levels in the physical world and 3 in the spiritual world. All animals are life receivers, from more perfect ones receiving the life of 3 levels of the physical world, the less perfect receiving just 2 levels, and the least perfect just 1. Only we humans are receptive of the life not only of the 3 levels of the physical world, but also the 3 levels of the spiritual world. This is why we, unlike animals, can be lifted up above the physical world. We can think analytically and rationally about civil and moral issues within the material world, and also about spiritual and heavenly issues that transcend it. We can even be lifted up into wisdom to the point that we see God. This enables us to see there's a ladder of all created things to that first, who alone is life, and the functions of all things are the actual vessels of life, and so too, therefore, are the forms of those functions. Now, there are many levels between us and God, and we need to be connected. This passage, following, helps us somewhat to understand the relationship between us and the divine. This is from Heavenly Secrets 3699. And behold, a ladder set on the earth. Sometimes it's translated differently. This signifies the communication of the lowest truth and its derivative good, the ladder being communication and the earth the lowest point. This truth and its derivative good is here represented by Jacob. In the original tongue, the term ladder is derived from an expression which signifies a path or way, and that path or way is predicated of truth. Moreover, when angels are conversing about truth, this is exhibited representatively in the world of spirits by ways, all of which shows what is signified by a ladder, one extremity of which is set on the earth, while the other reaches to heaven, namely, the communication of truth, which is in the lowest place, with truth, which is in the highest, which communication is treated of in what follows. Now contrast the difference between Jacob's ladder, where he saw angels going up and down the ladder, and the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, where people didn't think they needed the divine and they could do it all on their own. And those of us who've lived significant lives in this world know that it doesn't work. But we don't always think of our journey as ascending a ladder. Sometimes we think of it as a stony path around the bottom of a mountain, getting tangled up in brambles and going nowhere. Maybe we think of our journey as more like a spiral, like what was found with DNA. Here it's described as ascending a ladder if we choose to, but that doesn't mean we don't fall off it at times. From Heavenly Secrets 3700, and its head reaching to heaven, that this signifies with the divine, namely, that there was communication, is evident from the signification of the head or summit of the ladder as being that which is highest, and from the signification of heaven as being that which is divine. For in the supreme sense in which the Lord is treated of, heaven signifies the divine itself, but in the representative sense, which treats of the person who is being regenerated, it signifies the inmost good and its derivative truth that is from the Lord, such as there is in heaven, and from which is heaven itself. This is also called divine, because from the Lord. For this reason it has been occasionally said that the Lord is heaven itself, and that all who are in heaven are in the Lord. Now these are big sayings from Heavenly Secrets, but I hope you're able to grasp the gist of this. The ladder is the link between us and the divine or heaven if we choose to be regenerated. If we do, we are actually in the Lord. Going on further to Heavenly Secrets 3701, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it, that this signifies infinite and eternal communication and the consequent conjunction, and that from what is lowest there is, as it were, an ascent, and afterwards, when the order is inverted, a descent, is evident from the signification of angels as being something divine of the Lord, which is meant by them when they are mentioned in the word. In the present case, they signify divine truth. By the way, I have cut a number of what I consider somewhat repetitive passages in there. So in the present case, they signify divine truth, for the subject is the truth from which is good, represented by Jacob. Ascending and descending on the ladder signifies in the supreme sense infinite and eternal communication and the consequent conjunction. In the Lord, all is infinite and eternal. Infinite in respect to being and eternal in respect to manifestation. From all that has been said, it is evident that of the ladder set on the earth and its head reaching to heaven, and behold the angels of God ascending and descending on it, the sum total of the signification is an ascent, as it were, from what is lowest, and afterwards, when the order is inverted, a descent. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. So what does this mean to us? Is the descent a deterioration? I think the next passage explains it. This is from Heavenly Secrets 3702. And behold, Jehovah standing upon it. That this signifies the Lord in the highest is evident from the fact that in the word of the Old Testament, the Lord is so often called Jehovah or Yehovah, and that in the word of the New Testament, he is nowhere called Jehovah, but instead of Jehovah, the Lord. The arcanum which lies concealed in the internal sense of these words is that all goods and truths descend from the Lord and ascend to him. That is, that he is the first and the last. For people have been so created that the divine things of the Lord may descend through them down to the ultimates of nature, and from the ultimates of nature may ascend to him, so that a person might be a medium that unites the divine with the world of nature, and the world of nature with the divine, and that thus the very ultimate of nature might live from the divine through a person as the uniting medium, which would be the case if a person had lived according to divine order. So it looks like we are a critical part of creation. By returning the Lord's love, we effectively give God the glory and complete the circle. Here's what it says in the next passage, later in the explanation of this story. Heavenly Secrets 3709. And in you shall all the families of the ground be blessed. That this signifies that all the truths of the good of doctrine should be conjoined with good is evident from the signification of being blessed, as being to be conjoined, from the signification of families as being goods, and also truths of good, and from the signification of ground as being that which is of the church, consequently the doctrine of good and truth in the natural or external person, which is here represented by Jacob. All this shows that by the words, "In you shall all the families of the ground be blessed," is signified that all the truths of the good of doctrine should be conjoined with good. Truths of the good of doctrine are the doctrinal things of love to the Lord and of charity towards the neighbour, which is said to be conjoined with good in the natural person, when to know them for the sake of doing them is a pleasure and a delight. Wow. There's the message. I know this has been a lot of readings, but this is such an important part, I believe, of this story, is what does it mean to us today? Basically, it's a win-win when we follow and love God and connect and love others. That's the message. But it's so important to us to be able to see these stories in the Bible. What do they mean to us today? And how can that help us on our journey? So I'll finish with a passage from True Christianity. This is True Christianity 24, subsection 5. Even though these are the concepts we need in order to go higher and recognize the divine reality about God and the spiritual world, they have been lacking until now. I say that we go higher, but I really mean that we are taken up by God. That's pretty critical. We have free will. We can use it to gain religious knowledge. When we exercise our intellect and gain religious knowledge from the Word, we smooth a pathway that God can use to come down and lift us up. The concepts that can lift our intellect higher and let God take us by the hand and lead us can be compared to the steps on the ladder that Jacob saw. It was set up on the ground, but the top of it stretched into heaven. Angels were climbing up on it, and Jehovah was standing above it. So what's the take-home message? There should always be a take-home message. We are vessels for the divine love. We can choose to follow the happiest pathway or ladder from earth up to be with the divine and the angels by following the Lord's message, loving and serving others. In that way we ascend the ladder, difficult though that is sometimes, and observe the way our lives used to be scrabbling around the brambles at the bottom. I used to say that a lot when I was younger. And be grateful for the many blessings God gives us. Or we can build a Tower of Babel, and the future's pretty dim if we do that. Amen. Now a blessing for you all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord show you his presence. May the Lord be with you in your good days and your bad. May the divine comfort you in your particularly sad days. The divine is with us always. Amen. Now we can close the word.